At the end of the day, like Google is about helpfulness. Like that is our reason for being. Every single thing that we do from search to Gemini to Pixel is meant to be helpful. And it's a lot of pressure to be like the physical manifestation of Google and of this idea of helpfulness.
Explore the minds and marketing strategies behind today's winning brands and businesses. Tap into the power of the creator economy with Earned by CreatorIQ.
Hi, I'm Brit, Starr, CMO at CreatorIQ. I'll be joining Earned to lead conversations around transformation, talking directly with the leaders, doers, and creators changing marketing from the inside out. The future is content first and creator-led. Let's get started.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm so happy to announce that we have Ava Donaldson joining us today. Ava and I go back a little bit and we have personal and professional paths crossing for the last couple of years. You actually work with my husband, who is probably here taking behind the scenes footage. But then also we've had the privilege of working together in the creator space. You've spoken at several of our events recently. I'm so really excited to kind of bring a lot of the knowledge you have shared with us and with the guests at our events. I'd love to start out with just a quick introduction. Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and what got you there. I feel like just because we've known each other for what feels like forever, even though it hasn't been that long, really, it's just really nice to spend time together. So I'm Ava. I have been at Google now for about 7.5 years. My formal title is really long, but the TLDR is that I focus on talent and creator strategy for platforms and devices, which is really any kind of physical product that Google makes, as well as Android and Chrome. So all of our kind of ecosystems coming together. But really my focus is on Google Pixel, Fitbit, Pixel Buds, et cetera, and just figuring out how to connect those products with people that can really bring the benefits of them to life. Yeah, I love that. So you're like me in our industry, somewhat of a lifer, like almost 8 years, right? You've been at Google for 7.5 years. I'm a little over 8 years as well at CreatorIQ. What has kept you around for so long? I really can't believe that it has been that long. I feel like I blinked and here we are. My anniversary is in July and I'm like, wow, it's been a really long time. I think for me, there's definitely a couple of things. I think the opportunity and the impact is really, really important to me. And what I found, my sort of professional mission statement is to uplift the uplifted. And I feel like I do that every day with talent and creators. And that's sort of like my manifestation of how I can do that. And so the ability to do that is what brings me to work every day. And I've just found working at Google and navigating the ever-growing industry that we're in, and we'll get into that a little bit more, I know, but has really presented that opportunity to continually do that. And also the people have definitely kept me there, have an incredible team and incredible partners and extended team members, including CreatorIQ, that we work with every day. And I feel very grateful for that. Yeah, I talk about that a lot too in my professional journey, how much it is about the people and the space and how those two things come together. I think like the fact that this is such a human-centered business is something that makes me really excited. I just had a guest on, Vivian Walsh. She was the head of brand at Meta. She also is someone who believes in a professional mission statement. I love that you're bringing that into the conversation. Can you talk to me a little bit more about uplifting the uplifted, what that means to you and how you bring that into practice? I can't take credit for that statement specifically alone. My energy healer actually kind of helped hone that for me. And I definitely am someone that is really into spirituality and astrology and all of these things. But I think it helps me in the way that I show up every single day. But having a North Star and a sort of foundational value set, I think is critical and important in the work that we do every day in general, but just also, like you said, working with people and just remembering at the end of the day that you can come back to this personal value. I don't know. It's just been always something that has driven me. And as I develop myself personally and in other areas of my life, I try to bring that also into my professional work every day. I love that. I know we'll talk about astrology and such later. That's another one of our paths crossing. You talked a little bit about your role in terms of the products that you focus on at Google. What's the mandate? How do you know that you're successful every day, every year? What is the work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis at Google as part of your role?
How we measure success, I think, at our most simple form. So my team specifically focuses on how we connect those products and tell the story of how they are helpful, and how Gemini AI on our products specifically and on Pixel specifically is helpful to consumers through the lens of people. We do that every day, largely through the platform of social media. And so while some of the work that we do is conversion driving or sale driving, whether that's like affiliate marketing or some of our social commerce tactics, a lot of what we do is storytelling via content. And so we are more so at the upper and mid funnel when we're thinking about sort of like the spectrum of marketing. And what that means is we're really trying to create engaging content that people connect with. And we're really trying to build a community online. Our focus in terms of success is on really driving reach and awareness around that content and also driving engaging content. So creating content that people can actually connect with, because for a lot of folks, they're discovering us on social media. They're discovering that Google makes a phone and it's called Pixel, and that's a great option for them. And now we're on Pixel 9 and our suite of products are on Pixel 9. And so we've been at this game for a really long time. But when I think about, what our role in all of this, a lot of it is discoverability and creating that engaging content that's going to hook folks in and show them like, oh, this is an amazing phone. It's an amazing content creation device with an amazing set of, AI enabled tools. So that's kind of primarily where we sit. I think at the highest level, we can get into like the nitty gritty of measurement as well.
I love that. And again, I think really helpful to hear kind of what you're doing, but also the why, right? Really connecting those audiences to your products in ways that feel resonant, that help to tell and like contextualize that story. I think that's something that we've seen really consistently, is that the way we shop, the way we learn about things, the way we validate our purchases, especially on something like a phone, which is not an insignificant purchase. You need information and you need to get that through trusted sources. You need to almost like the demo without getting the demo, right? Like the touch and feel without getting the touch and feel. That's really interesting that even in the products that you span, which are like everyday products that people use, I'm on my phone an embarrassingly large amount of time.
You're not alone. It is one of the most personal products that we have and that we use every day. And it is in a very emotionally driven product. And so exactly to your point, it's like, okay, what is the spectrum of things that people care about? And of course, a lot of it is features and the camera, of course. So like, what can we provide that other products can't is critically important. But also, because it is an emotionally driven device, we also have to be okay with and acknowledge that it's going to be a journey to get there. And the journey for our customers is not linear. So creators are so central to a lot of the work that we do because they do have that trust with their audiences, but helping plug in creators and talent into kind of every aspect of the work that we do is critically important. So they may see a social media post and that may be the initial spark, but then it's also important that we connect the dots with our carrier partners and our first party retail, like the Google store, for example, so that there are touch points along the way. And it may not be that initial post that will make their purchasing decision, but that will be an input on the journey of this very emotionally driven product.
It's so interesting, again, like very similar to our business, right? When you're looking at kind of enterprise software, it's incredibly multi-touch. It's not linear. It's not singular attribution, right? It's complex because we make decisions and get informed at every phase of the process. There's been a ton of articles about like kind of the death of the funnel, but I fully believe that. We do not live in a linear world. We don't make decisions in a linear way today.
No, definitely not.
Okay, so you talked about you're on Pixel 9. You started Pixel 2, right? Talk to me about the way creator marketing has changed at Google and the role you've played, I would imagine, in driving that. And just kind of to lead the witness a little bit, like, is it taking a bigger stage? Is it more central to conversations? Some of the themes that we're seeing, in the industry and across our clients is really that creators have moved from kind of a peripheral nice to have into very central to strategy. So I'm curious what that journey has looked like for you at Google and where you found some wins and some challenges.
I would say that we are absolutely following the industry trend and have been for the past 7 years. When I was initially brought on to Google, actually as a contractor, I was specifically supposed to focus on micro influencers. And that was such a niche thing back then. And that was kind of my specialty focus. And then as, I grew within Google and also the industry grew in tandem and we were really building everything out together, we realized that a multi-tiered influencer strategy was the solution. And of course, we continue to iterate on who are those pillars that we're activating and how are we activating and how are we measuring them to deliver on their full superpowers. But absolutely, influencer marketing wasn't even really a defined thing when I came into the mix. And to your point, an absolute nice to have. And now it is completely central to all of the work that we're doing because of what we're talking about. Like, everyone is online, everyone is being sold products every single day. So how do you cut through and how can you actually align to folks that are trusted? It's just so critical and important. And I think what we've been able to do is really develop a multi-tiered strategy where we're not necessarily leaning on every single pillar of type of creator or talent for every single thing. And we've honed an approach that allows us to work with partners and lean into their superpowers to remove some of the pressure I think we had before where we did think that everyone could do everything. And I think that's a lot of what we learned along the way is no, actually, we should be more discerning and more understanding that not every type of talent can drive the same results.
I love that. It makes so much sense. And I think it sounds small, but that's such a big realization and unlock in terms of the way you build your community, activate them, and what you expect of each other in that relationship. You talk a lot, and we talked earlier about uplifting the uplifted. It is, at its best, a mutually beneficial relationship. You are in a relationship with your creators, with your creator community. What value outside of just, again, the monetary part of the partnership do you feel like you can give to your creator partners?
It is something that we think about every single day. I think what we do is really try to approach every single partnership in a really bespoke way, especially with some of our top tier talent that may have foundations, creative endeavors, goals, whether that's launching a new channel, like launching their YouTube channel for the first time. And we do have a lot of resources, and we are a really big company with amazing parts of our company, from google.org, our foundation side, to YouTube, et cetera. So we have a lot of different assets that we can provide to folks. And I think we really try to not ever make assumptions of what somebody wants and really have them tell us. And that's also how we kind of test and learn our partners too. Are they coming to us proactively with ideas? Do they have ways in? Do they want to bring kind of other properties or projects or collaboration opportunities? And those are the most fruitful partnerships that we do, or the ones where folks are really, really leaned in.
The superpowers of Google is that, we talk in our world about the power to change the world, but that is true with the scale and reach and power of a Google behind you. And so I think that, combined with, we just launched a survey and found that for the first year ever, actually, creators say that their number one motivation for working with a brand are growth opportunities. It's also the number one indicator of satisfaction in the partnership. And that's changed for the past 4 years that we've been doing this survey until today. It's been, again, monetary gain. Obviously, creators are running a business. That's hugely important. And then also the quality of the product, which I think today is just a prerequisite, right? Creators want to represent products that they feel strongly about. This creator satisfaction really tied to growth opportunities and the way they can lean in, but the way that's received and built on by the brand, I think, is such a fundamental shift, and something you have been ahead of that a lot of brands can learn from. Is it really is about helping a business owner and a brand owner grow their business and brand while they help you grow yours.
Yeah. And one thing I would add too is I think sometimes we, or I, forget that having Google behind you as a creator can feel really big and exciting. And I say that in the most humble way. This is another brand deal for this person, but truly some of the feedback that we've gotten, I think especially from some of our more emerging creators, is It's amazing to be a partner of Google and to have that kind of to stand behind as a means to also generate other opportunities. And that I think makes them even more invested in building the relationship is this mutual trust of, we want to partner with you and we take that really seriously and we want to build with you and we're receptive to your ideas, but then also leveraging that as a launching pad for them because to your point, they are business owners and they need to grow and develop. And so if we can, support that in any way, what a win, what an opportunity.
And what an amazing thing to be in a position to help those creators realize that moment, right? Like Google is a resume builder. Obviously, everyone knows Google. And so having that milestone, like achieving that from a creator standpoint, and to your point about getting offered a partnership that feels like it's on a big stage like that around a brand and product that you're connected to on a daily basis is a big milestone. Again, with great power comes great responsibility, but also what a lovely way to enter these relationships and again, add like bigger value than kind of what's in the contract.
100%.
Okay, we talked about milestones for the creators and how you've been, at Google now for 8 years. What have been some of the big milestones, aha moments, like memorable times for you in the course of those 8 years?
I think at this point, I've been a part of 15 different launches. So it is really hard to whittle down that list to a small number, but I'm going to do my best. So some highlights for me personally. My favorite project that I've ever done that continues to run today is a program called Creator Labs. I started it in 2019 with now one of my best friends and partner, Stephen Chaikin of SN37. And the idea was super simple. It was, we have an incredible phone for photography and how do you build meaningful relationships with emerging photographers and directors? And so we created this visual arts incubator back in 2019, at that time with 10 artists, to really provide them with an open brief and opportunity to use Pixel and create what they wanted to create. And what has come from that is beyond what I could have imagined. We're about to put out our 9th body of work, or we call them seasons, so season 9 coming up. And we're working with, for this season, 31 artists. I think in total, we've worked with around 35 in total. We've scaled the program globally. So it was US artists, primarily New York artists to start. And now we have folks from the UK. And then for our forthcoming season, we'll have folks from Germany and Japan as well. So it's a growing global network, which is amazing. But I think what really works is, one, we've built relationships with a lot of the same artists kind of year over year. And the intention of the program is to support the generation of passion projects that are really pushing Pixel to the limit in terms of what it can deliver on as an amazing, content creation device, but also so that we build relationships with artists and can provide other incremental opportunities. We do a ton of editorial partnerships with the New York Times, with Out Magazine, with Ebony Magazine. Like, we've done so many in the past, and we need incredible photographers that know how to use Pixel. And so it just is an ecosystem that has been really, really incredible and effective in just having amazing photographers and directors to tap into for incredible opportunities.
It's such an amazing program. And I love the idea of tapping into an insight that's so true to the product again, but like really taps into the passions of your creator community as well, right? So product differentiator and then passion of the creator. It's a good example. And I think a step farther than a lot of brands go.
Totally. And two kind of tangible examples of like the ecosystem really working well. In 2022, we launched a Super Bowl ad and around Realtone, which is our camera technology that started on Pixel 6 and has continued to iterate over time. That's been another one of my favorite campaigns. So intersecting that as well, that's all about this idea of seen on Pixel. So allowing all skin tones to be accurately represented. And so we used kind of advertising's biggest stage to tell that story in partnership with Lizzo. And we put out an ad that was directed by Joshua Kissy, who is an alumni of the program, an incredible director, photographer, and friend of mine now. And so that was an incredible example of like the program just really working. And that was a huge proof point for us.
I love that. Also, like full circle again, just bringing, I think too, the creators on the biggest advertising stage in the world And again, in so many ways, like you had a creator behind the scenes, you had a creator in front, like it's all creator led at that point to bring content forward in that medium. We've talked a lot about that too. Obviously, like the power of creators and earned media outside of those biggest channels. But the fact that we're seeing more creators appear in traditional channels, more creator content appear in traditional channels, I think is something we expect to see a lot more of. Again, this is another area where I think you guys have been really ahead of the curve in terms of just acknowledging the truth that creator content works better. So finding the places to bring those stories to life in bigger ways through traditional channels, I think is really interesting. Was that an easy path? Did you have to kind of fight an uphill battle to validate the thesis there?
Totally. Well, Super Bowl is no joke. And I definitely cannot take sole credit for, having Joshua be a collaborator in the project. And I have to acknowledge my leadership team because they were incredibly supportive of us integrating Joshua and bringing folks into the fold in that way. Super Bowl is a team effort and we wouldn't have been able to do it. We partnered with so many folks internally and externally to make that happen. So I think there's always hesitation before you get a program started. And one of my secrets, and please listeners steal this, is always positioning new programs as a pilot because it removes so much of the pressure, especially for your leaders, but also letting the learnings grow over time too. Because I think when we did the first season of Creator Labs, we were measuring it in the wrong way and we were just leaning into social metrics. And we weren't working with the biggest artists, so that was the wrong way to think about it. And so I think figuring out that, wow, we drove a lot of press and a lot of headlines in tier one publications, and reframing it from the lens of this is really about kind of driving cultural cachet with the primary KPI being press driven, and the tier of press that we were getting attention from was more so than the focus. And that really helped us reframe and step into season 2 in a way that we were setting ourselves and the artists up for success and not pretending that the program was doing something that it wasn't. And that wasn't the intention of it in terms of driving huge social numbers specifically.
I love that. I would agree, doubling down on position anything as a pilot. It takes the edge off, takes the pressure down. It also gives you a lot more flexibility to do exactly what you said, which is learn and iterate to make sure that you're properly kind of focusing the program going forward. So I'll take that one back with me as well. You have talked about these amazing partnerships, the ability to work with artists who now are, you consider some of your best friends, getting your work seen on the biggest stages in the world. Anytime you walk into our event, the first thing I tell you is you're the coolest girl in the room, right? So all of these things, it makes your job look very, glamorous. And there's so many amazing aspects of your job, all of which you've talked about. And I'm sure there's so many more. What are some of the hard parts of your job?
Well, first of all, thank you. That's very flattering. I would say that all of the work behind the scenes is not the thing that you're seeing in those micro moments, or you're seeing something posted on Instagram story or on LinkedIn or whatever that was so many months in the making. The reality is that I work every single day from 7 a.m. till probably 11 p.m. Of course, with different things that I do to set myself up for success, like my morning routine, I will live and die by, but it's a lot of work. And I think sometimes folks will see events or things that I'm doing and it's that's work. That's work. Traveling for work is not glamorous. It's a privilege and I'm really, really grateful to do it. And I wouldn't have it any other way, but it is work. And I think for me, again, the thing that has been so critical for my success every single day is having the morning routine and doing the things that I need to do to just feel grounded, normal, and set up for success. Those are my non-negotiable things.
What's your morning routine?
So I'm a Capricorn, and I should caveat that. And I know we're going to maybe talk about astrology a little bit later, but what that means is we really love a framework and we really love stability. And so for me, living in an industry and a day-to-day that changes so much, there needs to be foundational things that I do every single morning to just feel normal. So the first thing I would say is my meditation routine. I have 2 things that I listen to. One is a recording from my energy healer that's just about cord cutting. It's basically resetting your energy on a daily basis and acknowledging that every single day can be different in a positive way. And then another one is just this mantra from Gabby Bernstein that I started during COVID of just literally being like, all is well, like everything is okay. And just listening to that for 5 minutes is incredibly grounding. I go on a walk and I do a workout and I drink a lot of coffee. And those are the things that make me feel okay.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. I need to get more routine about my morning. My mornings tend to follow the nature of my day, which similar to yours tends to be like very different. I love this idea of grounding, especially again, like you are in such a relationship-based business that bringing your best self, bringing good energy into everything that you do, it helps you obviously, but it also helps the work. It helps you kind of approach things with openness and energy that meet the moment versus like bring in anything to it. So I love that. I appreciate you for sharing.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so getting in a little bit to the Google-iness of Google. Everyone knows, well, at least those of us who are a little closer to the company know that Google does things a certain way, right? It's very distinct. I think it has a lot of pride in terms of doing things differently. I'd love to hear what some of the aspects of working for a product within Google. What are the non-negotiables of Google? What makes Google Google in the context of the relationships, the communities that you're building, the campaigns that you're running?
I would say that there is a lot to go on the responsibility factor. There's just a lot to consider. And one thing that I'm really trying to push our team on is just having shorter briefs. But it's hard because, there's a lot to consider, and there's product managers too, I should say, like making features perfect or good enough to go to market. So they want to be protective of that and like how that shows up. And especially now that we have Gemini, it's even more so like thinking about all of the ways that it can be helpful and the use cases and all of that. Because at the end of the day, like Google is about helpfulness. Like that is our reason for being. Every single thing that we do from search to Gemini to Pixel is meant to be helpful. And it's a lot of pressure to be like the physical manifestation of Google and of this idea of helpfulness. And so there's just a lot of consideration that has to go to tactical things, to the brief. What disclaimers do we need to use? Like, how do we need to talk about features and products and all of those things? And I think sometimes we tend to overanalyze and overthink things a little bit, but it's all coming from a really good place, which is we do have this huge responsibility and this huge brand to stand behind. So we have to think about all of the details of what is presented, the kind of creators that we work with, and all of that. So I think ultimately it makes us all better because it makes us really investigate and be curious about all outcomes in all scenarios. But I would say that that's the biggest thing, is how much consideration has to be brought to every single thing, and also how much cross-functional collaboration is done in service of that.
Two things that caught my ear while you were talking. One is the back and forth on the balance of a good brief, especially for creators who we all know, I'm assuming we're very aligned on this, kind of do their thing, that then we can tell them how to do it. So how do you arm and enable them with information while letting them have creative autonomy to create content that best connects with like their audiences, best connects with who they are as a creator, and find that balance? I think that's something that a lot of brands struggle with today. So I love that you even mentioned like the push for a more brief. What are the like core components of a brief that have to be there in order to enable great content?
So I would say even before we get to the briefing stage, we know that introductions are important. And to the discussion we were having earlier, a lot of people that we work with may be working with Pixel for the first time. And so having a strong onboarding process that is high touch is really critical for us, and acknowledging and accepting that some folks may be hearing about Pixel for the first time when we reach out to them, or playing with the product for the first time, when they're getting their devices and getting set up, and acknowledging that and making that an experience for creators where we take them through, here's everything we want you to know. Of course, ask questions and like push us on ways that you use other devices or questions that you might have or anything that you're thinking. But creating that dialogue and creating that like setup and introduction is critically important. In terms of the brief, for me, because I love a framework, I wanted to clearly outline what is the context of this overall campaign and how is what you're doing fitting into it? What are the things that you actually need to communicate in the video that are important? Ideally, we like to provide options of here are all of the ways. And then to your point, they can bring in their style, their unique way, their signature sort of format into the mix. And so it can feel truly like a collaboration. What is the timeline that we need you to do it? When does it go live? Who is it in partnership with? Like, what is the larger context? And what are like the fine print details, disclaimers, FTC, et cetera?
Giving creators context will help them help you solve the problem in the best way. Just like, again, it's how you would brief your internal teams. It's how you brief your agency partners. Like, there's no difference. It's give them the context, give them the objectives, allow them to really understand what you're trying to achieve together, and then set them loose to help you.
Exactly. Paint the picture and be direct about what your intentions are too, and give them all the information, to your point, that they need to succeed.
I want to talk a little bit about your passions. I've seen a few flashes of the nails. I know you were incredibly passionate about nail art. How did that start?
I have been obsessed with nails since high school, although at that time I was just doing one nail polish color and my nails were really short. It was OPI Lincoln Park After Dark, which is like a dark purple, almost black. Really specific. And actually, when I was in college and really trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I've always also been into fashion. Fashion blogs were hugely popular at that time. It was my senior year. And so I was discovering all these fashion blogs primarily from folks that lived in New York City. And so I actually found this fashion blog called Style Like You and this manicure that had 3D fruit on it from this woman, Nails by May. And it was done on a woman named Hannah Bromfin. And fast forward 6 months, I started following them on Instagram. I was an early adopter, but I started following both of them on Instagram at the time. Instagram, I think, started in 2012, or at least that's when I got it. And I had followed what Hannah was doing. And at the time, she had just launched this app called Beautified. So it was perfect timing. I sent her a Facebook message. I said, I've been following you. Your nails are amazing, first of all. I've been following you for a while. I would love to help. I'm a senior in college about to graduate. And so really, I can actually thank nail art for giving me my
entire career. That's amazing.
And I can thank very directly my dear friend, Nails by May Kawajiri, for making that manicure, because it really started everything, to be honest. And here we are 11 years later. I'm still seeing May. She's doing amazing work for everyone. The Hadids, Balenciaga, Vivienne Westwood, et cetera, et cetera.
That's amazing. I did not know that. I also love the fact that, and I think this is something I tell people all the time, reach out, ask people, connect. Like, we've been talking about creators this whole time. That's so much of what they do, is they put themselves out there in ways that allow people to connect with them. And so I love that as career advice as well, of just reaching out to people. And I think people are much more generous with their time and experience than we give them credit for. So having coffees with people, getting to know people, saying, I really respect what you do. Like, I love that as kind of career advice, because I think it's intimidating to kind of find your fit. The more conversations you have and the more you learn about people, the more you can kind of find your way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what you said and how you articulated it is perfect. Like, I respect your career. Will you give me some of your time so that I can ask you questions about it? Just be direct and don't waste people's time. Because sometimes I get really confusing emails from people. I'm like, what do you want? Respectfully, what do you want? Everybody's really busy, so just say what you want. And people are so happy to help. They just want to know, like, what am I stepping into,
Yeah, I love that. Okay, next passion, which we've talked about a couple of times, astrology, which I know for you is part of a much bigger area of passion and a big part of who you are personally, right? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
100%. So I've referenced being a Capricorn. My moon is in Scorpio. And I know this sounds like a little inside baseball, but essentially what that means is I really love a strategy and a framework. And so when I discovered astrology, it was such an unlock because it was a way to self-reflect and really understand my strengths and weaknesses and the things that I need to work on or focus on. But then also it was so helpful in how I relate to other people and just as a tool of understanding people, whether that's other folks in my team, my family, my friends, anyone to be like, okay, cool, this person is a Leo, so they may be coming from this perspective, or this person is a Pisces, so they're coming from it from this perspective. And then learning more and more about it and the nuances of your birth chart and transits and all of that has just given me like a new frame of thinking, I would say, that helps me understand people and also feel part of something bigger than just myself, because there's so much going on in the universe and in the world in terms of transits and the way that we're all moving. So it's helpful.
I love that. I've actually never used those words to describe it, the framework. I also use it as reflection. I think people who haven't experienced more directly or kind of are newer to it just attach it to kind of like horoscopes. It's always like what's happened, what's happening, what's going to happen. But using it as like a tool for reflection has always been where I found a lot of value out of it. And I'm much newer to the game, but have the benefit of someone very close to me and my family, being kind of an amazing teacher and leader in that. So it's been a really fun experience for me to get more into it and honestly, like learn more about myself and almost use it as, I think I don't take the time I need to be quiet with myself and really have a conversation with and about me. And so it provides that opportunity to ask myself some questions, understand myself a little bit better. And then I love the aspect you brought in, which is like understand others too. It's all about how we relate, what we bring into our relationships and how we connect with people, which understanding is a big part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a tool for self-awareness, to your point, both in how you are self-aware about who you really are and being self-aware of other folks and embracing their differences.
You talked a little bit about how prevalent Gemini is in the value props of the products you worked on. How are you using AI in your day-to-day? What role does it play in you doing your job and with creators as well, not just via the products, but what role has AI taken in your kind of day-to-day?
Yeah, for me, I really think about AI with efficiency and what can AI help me with and help improve for me to make my life easier. So sometimes I will use Gemini for articulating thoughts. I'll kind of put a half-baked idea in and just use it as a brainstorm partner or a thought partner to kind of get to more honed ideas. And that might be for a byline in an executive deck that I need to do, or it could be a part of a brief that I'm just like really kind of struggling to crack. And instead of wasting my time kind of hitting my head against the wall, it's just helped me move faster. Yeah. We similarly have an incredible software called Notebook LM where it will help download really long-winded material, whether that's a white paper or a deck or whatever, into just consolidating. I don't have a lot of time. I know so many people don't, but just consolidating long form content into a couple of principles. And even if I skim through the deck a couple of times, I'm like, okay, what do I really need to take away from this? Of course, can't always do that, but it helps me kind of move quickly when I need to.
That has been something that I've been using as well.
Did you know that I can turn it into a podcast?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. The audio is so amazing because people learn in such different ways. And so instead of spending, to your point, like 2 hours digging through a really dense piece of a white paper or something, plug it in, you listen to something for 20 minutes. And yeah, it just helps like reinforce, I think, and for me makes it a lot stickier. Like I need to either physically write things down or hear it and say it back to truly understand it. All right, last question. What's next for you?
As somebody that has a framework, I am still always thinking about the people and the opportunity and the impact. And we are living in such a fast-moving and transformative time that I'm trying to keep up with all the innovation that is happening. And I think the reality is we work in an industry that has really developed over the past few years, but will continue to at such a rapid rate. And so it does feel a little bit, and always has, like we're operating in the Wild West, which is one of my favorite aspects of it. So it's hard to say specifically what is next for me, but definitely just continuing to follow the impact and the people. And for me right now, that's at Google.
Thank you so much for the conversation. This was really fun, as expected.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Be a friend, tell a friend, and subscribe. Earned by CreatorIQ. CreatorIQ is your all-in-one solution to grow, manage, scale, and measure your influencer marketing program. Ready to unlock the power of the creator economy? Get started with a demo today at CreatorIQ.com.